the emotions there for everybody watching. So as Igor mentioned, I'm the director of the Hillel at FIU, but also in my spare time, I'm a chaperone on the March of the Living, which is a signature program here in Miami. It takes about 150 high school seniors, on the journey to Poland. So I'm wondering, that age, because you were about that age when you went, why was it important for you to go, and why at that age? Why at that time?
So I actually met Paulina for the first time, not in the image that you just saw, but I met her on my high school's version of March of the Living. I went to a high school called Ramaz, which is in Manhattan, and during the senior year, they take seniors on a trip to Poland, to Germany, Poland, and Israel. And by coincidence, they have been meeting with Paulina for the past 20 years. And she's been speaking to them about saving this young boy. And it just happens to be that was my grandmother. So it was meant to be, this movie was definitely meant to be. So that was the starting point for how this story came to be.
There's a lot of that throughout the film. You don't think that you're going to find the barn, you don't think you're going to find anything, but it all seems to...
Yeah, I don't think that we, the director Phil Berger, the other producers, Matthew Hiltzik, I don't think that we knew all of the pieces. They kind of fell together, which is kind of one of the remarkable things. And it really came together, and I think that I really think it was meant to be.
Yeah. And at the end, in the Q&A there, your grandfather, who was reluctant to go at first, he talks about going into the barn, and he says it was for the structural thing. I kind of don't believe that for a second.
I don't believe that either.
What do you think was really the case?
I think that he was curious. I think that he was emotional. It was a place that he lived for a significant memory of his childhood. I think that it was out of concern. I think that when he said, "Don't go here," I think that he really did a good job of, and does a good job of shielding us from a lot of those memories. He does speak about his time, but it's very factual, and it's in a historical sense, and it's not with heavy emotion, and I think that it's a protective mode, and I think that he went into that as soon as he realized that it was real and we were coming to the barn, he went into that protective mode.
Yeah. But he said no, and you went in right away.
I went in afterward.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but after he said no.
Yes.
Why? Why did you not listen in that scenario?
I think there was just no way that we made it all the way there to this random little town in the middle of nowhere, a place that is responsible for my being here with you right now. There was just no way that I wasn't going to see it. And I think that it's important that I see it, that I can tell you properly that I saw it. I didn't just watch him go in, I saw it with my own eyes. So I think that that's what drove me to go.
And relaying that message, seeing it with your own eyes, and then making a film and telling others, what has that experience been like? Sharing your story.
Yeah, it's been really special. I think that, and I mentioned it in the interview that you just saw, that it was something that was cultivated at home. It was a responsibility that was cultivated in my house because 3 of my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and so many of my family members perished in the Holocaust. And it's something that me and my brothers definitely have grown up with, realizing that this responsibility will be on us, and now all of you, which is part of the free gift that you get with seeing the film, is that you are now also witnesses to this story. And I think that this film is not just about the Holocaust. Of course, it means that now we all have this extra eyewitness to seeing this specific story of the Holocaust, but this film is also about about multiple people who disregarded their own religion and their race and their creed to help people that didn't look or practice just like them. And I think right now that's very, very important message in the climate and place that we are living in right now. And I think that it's a really beautiful thing to think about and aspire to be like Paulina and Misko, who is the farmer, that we should be able to empathize with people who are not exactly like us.
It's not just a gift, it's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility, yes, absolutely.
One thing I'm interested in is we don't hear much about after the war, what life was like for your grandfather. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my grandfather came to America. He lived in a DP camp in Germany first, and then he came to America. And his parents had to work very, very hard to enable him to live a somewhat normal childhood after what was definitely not a normal childhood. He went to Bronx Science High School. He ended up going to Columbia for engineering school, so he was able to work very, very hard to catch up. To learn English at 14 is no easy task, and then to be able to take the right tests to get into college and master them. I think that, I mean, he did a remarkable job that 2 generations later, his kids are all in college. It's pretty amazing, and I feel very blessed.
Yeah. You know, a lot of that gets passed down, a lot of people say, so you don't have that normal childhood. Do you think that affects, you know, your parents and then you?
Yes.
How so?
I mean, I can't speak for my parents, but growing up with parents who are Holocaust survivors, as the director Phil Berger did, is no easy task. There are definitely things that come out in the house, and habits, and feelings that are PTSD. And I think that in my house thankfully manifested into a healthy realization that like there's a responsibility to work hard, to achieve, to make yourself happy and successful, but always to, I don't know, be cautious. So I think my parents did a really good job of translating whatever traumatic memories that their parents had into a really healthy environment.
Good. I think we have some time for some questions from the audience here. Does anyone have any questions?
First of all, excellent film. How many hours of footage did you leave on the floor, and how hard was it to cut that thing down? I'm sure you sat with the editor.
Many, many, many hours. The film was shot primarily over the course of a week in Europe, where we were filming all the time. There are many hours of footage that did not make it into this film, obviously, of train rides and car rides and bus rides and everything in between, as well as some interviews before and after. But it's been a few years of editing, so yes, it's not an easy process, but it's a remarkable, I think, a remarkable final finished product. I'm very thankful to the team and the editor.
Has your grandfather seen the film in its entirety?
Yes, we had a screening in Manhattan last year for the producers and family members. And I actually think that my grandpa didn't realize that it was a real movie at first, because I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. I've always wanted to make movies, so I think he kind of thought it was like a movie, like, oh, Raheli's making a movie. So then we had like a proper screening in Manhattan. I think that's when it hit him that it was, oh, this is a real movie.
What is your educational background in terms of film?
Yeah, so I'm finishing college in May. I'm graduating from Barn College. I'm studying political science and film. A Barnard alum?
No.
Oh, yes, we have another Barnard student. Yes. I study film and political science, so I've been studying film in school, but I think the best practices that I've had from film has been in work. I've been working and interning in film since I'm 15 years old. So that's primarily where it came from, and a lot I learned from the people that worked on this film with me.
And you're active in the Hillel at Barn.
I am also active in the Hillel at Barnard. We love the Hillel at Barnard.
Yeah.
You had a question?
Yes, I just had a question about, I sensed in the way that you were talking with your grandfather about his inability to be emotionally there, that was something that you've grown up with for most of your life. Did any of the making of the film, or him seeing it now and reflecting back on it, change that dynamic at all?
Yes, I think that he is a little bit more emotive with me than he was prior to the journey. Still not about the Holocaust. I would say that's kind of how he realized he could speak about it. And I'm glad that he did that, because that means that he got to share a story with hundreds of people. He's been speaking at high schools, colleges, and elementary schools for years. So I'm glad that he was able to do that. But that's kind of part of the realization of like growing up with trauma, is that you find ways to cope and live, and that was part of his way, was like to suppress emotion.
So your grandfather said he stayed away from other Holocaust survivors, yet 3 of your grandparents were Holocaust survivors.
The only one that wasn't was his wife.
Was his wife?
Yes, American.
So what was his relationship with the other Holocaust survivors, the other
grandparents?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually have a really great relationship, which is something that they've had a really great relationship. My grandfather Irving passed away when I was young, but my grandparents have always had a really great relationship. I don't think that they speak, like I rarely have seen them speak directly to each other about the Holocaust or about their memories about the Holocaust, but it's probably something that they share. I mean, it is something that they share and that they can relate about, that they didn't have normal childhoods, but I think that they're all thankful that we got to this point. They're really lovely. All three of them are lovely and have amazing stories. I think that that's something that I realized with this film. Any Holocaust survivor could have an hour film made about them. Any Holocaust survivor could have a 4-hour film made about them. Every single person who survived had to have miraculous, literally miracles to get them to that point. So I'm thankful that I got to do this specific one. I wish that I would be able to do for many more. But thankfully there are a lot of injuries online. So if you have a chance, watch them.
Any questions? I have one more.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to sort of separate yourself as a filmmaker from being the granddaughter as you're working on this project?
So I think that was also some of the tension about why I wanted him to be emotive during the process. I was like, are we going to get this shot? Is he going to be emotional about this interview? But thankfully, the director, Phil Berger, and other people on the set were able to help me kind of be in the moment. I think that was definitely difficult. I was thinking about the money and the transportation, but we had a really, really excellent team behind us who were able to really make the process really smooth, and I was able to kind of focus on being there with him.
So like when you're in the cemetery, you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know if you're going to find. So you're like, we got to keep looking.
Yeah, no, everything that you see, like that's how it was. Yeah, that's the difference between documentaries and non-documentaries that I learned, is that it really is like that. Yeah.
And you know, it's been a few years, obviously. Do you look at it differently in any way?
At the film?
Yeah.
I stood outside. I don't like watching 18-year-old me speak. I hope that I've matured since then. But I love the film. Very, very passionate about it and the message. But yeah, it's weird to watch yourself at a young age interact with somebody on screen.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we all love the film as well. I want to thank you for being here.